Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a fantasy movie review and I'll be having a look at The Last Legion. So The Last Legion can actually be looked at as a prequel of sorts to the King Arthur legend. Now the focus here is on a young boy who we are told is the last of the Caesar line, and he's destined to become the next Caesar after the last 5 Caesars were each murdered all within a year of each other. So he's understandably a little bit nervous about sort of becoming Caesar. And at the same time we have the Goths, which are at the start of the film an ally of the Roman Empire. They decide to have a coup and sort of take over the Roman Empire for themselves and whisk this young boy off to sort of a prison. And it's up to the kind of protector of the young boy, played by Colin Firth, who is a kind of general in the Roman army in charge of actually his safety, to sort of try and rescue them. And he teams up with a kind of guard from the Indian allies, played by Aishwarya Rai, I believe her name is. That's Mira. I probably totally mispronounced that, so apologies. And along with a sort of a group of loyal Romans to sort of try and take back the young lad, who is himself destined for a prophecy involving the sword of the original Julius Caesar. Ultimately, that will become Excalibur. And after a kind of a thrilling sort of a rescue attempt, they kind of rescue him and sort of take him back to Britain, where that in itself has its own problems. That's this kind of like tyrant called Vortigern is kind of ruling there, and their idea is to sort of try and find the 9th Legion, who are the kind of the last legion to be loyal to the Emperor, to sort of try and fight back. So this is quite it's quite an enthralling sort of fantasy sort of medieval tale. Now, the main criticism you have of this film is a largely bloodless affair. There's very little sort of blood or graphic violence in this movie. There are obviously a lot of character deaths, but it's obviously filmed to be a kind of a family film more than anything else. I actually think it's got almost a bit of a Princess Bride vibe to it. Now that's going to put some people off if you're interested in your more kind of realistic depictions of the kind of medieval or fantasy, that sort of thing. And unfortunately, you're not going to find it in this one. There is a fair amount of action in this one, but it's obviously a very kind of kid-friendly movie. That's not to say it's a bad film, but I know it will put some people off. I have to say the direction of it was probably a little bit mundane. I didn't think it was anything too spectacular, and that again is going to be a criticism of this film. Although it's a rather unspectacular movie. Now, what I would say, the cast is absolutely fantastic in this movie, especially if you're watching it these days, because you're going to notice a lot of faces from the fantasy and historical sort of TV shows that you've seen, like Game of Thrones, Rome, and Spartacus. You'll see a lot of those faces cropping up in this movie, so it's kind of quite fun to have them all in this one sort of fantasy movie, which I quite enjoyed. And you've got John Hannah, you've got Colin Firth, you've got Ben Kingsley. There's a lot of reasonable names in this movie, so the cast is pretty good. The standout from me was the character who played, or the actress who played Mira, and she is this a kind of a big Bollywood star apparently, and this was her sort of attempt at a translation to a kind of a Western audience, I suppose. And she plays this female guard who sides with the young emperor and Colin Firth's character, and she's almost like a bit like a ninja, sort of an Indian ninja almost. And she would to me was the standout character. And I really liked her. I really liked her character, and I thought she did a good part, and I'd like to see more of her. I actually thought the action was pretty decent, if as I say, not particularly bloody. For me, the actual standout scene of this movie was the actual assault when they try and rescue the young boy, and the kind of Ben Kingsley's character who ends up sort of being Merlin from this kind of stone prison, because the scenery looks fantastic there. And to me that was the best fight scenes as well. The kind of the end battle where they have this sort of the ultimate sort of conflict between the remaining Roman loyal legion and the kind of the Vatican's sort of barbarian horde along with the Goths. To me, I thought that was a little bit flat and pedestrian. It wasn't bad, and that's the whole thing of this film. It's a solid film, but just not particularly spectacular. But because of the good cast, I have to say, I'd probably give this a better than average score. I actually quite enjoyed it, regardless of the fact that it is obviously not a particularly bloody film. We're a bit spoilt for that, I think, these days. We're sort of watching things like Spartacus and Game of Thrones on the TV shows. And obviously we've got the new Conan, whatever you're on the movies. So we're kind of used to sort of seeing these more bloodthirsty sort of depictions of sort of fantasy and medieval life. So I think maybe when we have a film like this which tries to sort of dial it down to appeal to a more family sort of audience, you know, it can be criticised for that. So if you're interested in the kind of your more, I guess, realistic depictions of historical or fantasy events, then you may be disappointed with this one. But I have to say, that didn't bother me so much. So I'm going to give this movie a 7 out of 10. What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.